ability. Double barrel bliss.
Hey there all you gals and gents, this is Axolotl Aristotle here today to bring you news of a glorious exterminatus taking place just above Holy Terra called Viscerafest. If you don't get that reference, you're a filthy heretic. Developed by Acid Man Games and Fireplant Games and published by 1C Entertainment, Viscerafest is an early access boomer shooter looking to assault players with colorful visuals and a brutal difficulty that would make Miyazaki jealous. Now, before I get further into this review, I'd like to ask you to hit that like and subscribe button in order to keep this bloody game reviews coming. Story-wise, I'm in love with this game. The premise is as wacky as can be expected of a retro shooter. You play as Caroline, a love-struck merc looking for a way to afford the man of her dreams a wedding ring. The solution? Decimating an entire science station for its owner's bounty.
So the plan's simple. Break in, kill the target, collect my pay, and get home in 3 days. Just in time for date night. Now, let's get this bloodbath started!
But Viscerafest is a step above many other current boomer shooters in that it puts major effort into its story, instead of just using it as a simple excuse for the player to get to the carnage. What at first seems simple quickly spirals out of control, as you find out these scientists weren't doing anything normal, like, creating a WMD, genetically modifying people, that kind of thing. No, instead, they seem to be trying to contact and enslave eldritch beings. Because we all know that works out.
Don't touch anything. That is an extremely early prototype, and it is immeasurably unstable. Activating it could tear this station apart.
Oh, well, we wouldn't want that now, would we?
This leads to some really cool visuals and levels later on, but I refuse to spoil them here. There's something that absolutely must be experienced for yourself for the first time. Not to mention that Viscerafest also has cutscenes that play out in comic book style with minimalist animations. Yes, please, I need this in my life, and I really, really hope they plan on making a full comic series. As a protagonist, Caroline is just the right mix of badass and comedian. In many ways, she reminds me of an in-between of Harley Quinn and Jinx from League of Legends. Unlike many retro FPS protagonists, Caroline actually interacts with the big-named baddies of the game, much to their dismay, and it leads to some of the game's funnier moments.
Intruder, I'll be frank in saying I don't know why you're here, but the consequences of us failing are beyond your ability to comprehend.
Yeah, that's real cute, Nulldok, but save it for someone who actually cares.
Just leave, and we'll forget this ever happened.
Nah.
Fine. Have it your way.
As for visuals, Viscerafest doesn't disappoint. Forget those grungy blacks, browns, and reds of the past, the future is neon. It's hard to tell if the world was designed to match Caroline's psychopathic enthusiasm, or if her enthusiasm is just a result of her living her whole life in that world. I think it's a little jarring that all the enemies are as colorful as the background, not because it makes them harder to see or anything, but if you look at this enemy, all you can think of is Cannonball, and now the entire roster becomes something out of Ben 10. Now, here's where the gameplay comes in, and it is absolutely brutal. Enemy deaths are as gory as you can expect thanks to the game's generous roster of weaponry, which can be summed up as the following. A pistol, more pistols, a shotgun, a bigger shotgun, a rocket launcher, and a mustard gas gun that stunlocks enemies as they choke to death. I'd make a Geneva Protocol joke, but Caroline beat me to it.
Pretty sure this sucker isn't legal, but what the hell?
Caroline also has a devastating punch attack that I had to mention separately because of its windup. Listen to that. Sick. All the weapons feel satisfying both with their audio and visuals, as well as the damage they dish out. Now, this is where I have to talk about the giant elephant in the room. The difficulty. You will die. Again. And again. and again, and probably more again than you needed or wanted in your life, but they'll be there anyways because life isn't hard enough apparently. Now, I don't shy away from difficult games. In fact, my library might indicate a bit of masochism, what with Dark Souls and Blood. But this game was designed so that you can't go an entire playthrough, even a level later in the game, without dying. One half of the coin is just learning enemy placement, because as soon as they see you, they shoot, even if you don't see them. Even the most basic enemies can kill you in a few hits. Stillness is death. The game instantly tells you two things that are incredibly important for your playthrough. One being a tutorial on how to bunny hop, and the other that you will not have enough ammo and must compensate with melee. I find this sort of counterintuitive. Yeah, you can usually one-hit some of the lesser creatures with one punch, but 90% of the enemies in this game are ranged, and they shoot fast. It's not that hard in the first couple levels because the game doesn't throw a ton of enemies at you, but later on, if you're focused on getting melee hits, you'll be turned into Swiss cheese. Granted, the enemies do have certain attack patterns, and the reason the game wants you to keep moving is because one of their weaknesses is that they shoot where you are and not where you'll be. Though this is somewhat offset in later levels, just due to either the sheer number of enemies you encounter or the size and layout of a room. Take this kill box for example. The strongest units in the game spawn in on all sides, and one in the center. This is the room that almost broke me, and it took me nearly 20 minutes to get past. Thankfully, I can tell you that the developers were mostly fair in their level design. The only time I thought something was actually cheap was that kill box room I mentioned earlier, and well, I'll just show you what happens here. To make matters even worse, saving is limited to a scarce number of items you get throughout the game. That means you choose when to put one down, if at all. The issue I have is that you can put it down and not have needed to, or you put one down early on in the level only to realize you are out of them, and any death means you have to redo all of your progress. Now, I've never, ever been a fan of this kind of system, and I will never be. This is just serious negative points in my book. In fact, the developers decided they would be the ones to cheese you during the boss fight, because they send a message saying, you can't place down saves during this fight. Nuh-uh, no cheesing. Like, come on. If I was skilled enough to get through the entire episode with a few save items left in my inventory, I should be allowed to use them during the boss fight, and I hope they take that out. Though, due to this incredibly high level of difficulty, I have learned one of Sun Tzu's hidden techniques. Don't give your enemy the advantage of using the bathroom. The last thing I'll mention about the gameplay are that certain sequences will happen. Throughout your run of Viscerafest, there will be scenes that you have to work through that aren't your typical walk into a room full of enemies and kill them all. For example, at the very start of the game you walk into a security clearance hallway. The workers, upon seeing you, activate one of those Resident Evil style laser grid traps. You have to avoid this by finding a hole in the wall and shooting the explosive barrel. I thought it was really unique and never overused throughout the rest of the game. In fact, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Acid Man and Fireplant do with the next 2 episodes. Speaking of what comes next, yes, there are going to be 2 more episodes, one of which will come out while the game is in early access. During the full release, Viscerafest will have fully updated the hub area, which will supposedly allow you to replay levels and spend the Scullies, the in-game currency you collect mainly through secrets. Overall, I was really quite happy with this game, though part of me did wish it was easier. The only other thing I disliked was how short the game was. My first playthrough on the Aardwolf difficulty only took me about 2.5 hours to beat. But if you don't mind that the game is short, want some intense difficulty, and a crazy protag that matches the world she's in, then I would definitely recommend Viscerafest to you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Also, don't hesitate to comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on Viscerafest, as well as any critique you have of my video. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support this channel. There are numerous tiers and rewards, like having your names listed at the end of my videos. Making reviews like these are a blast, and I can do this on a much more consistent basis with your support.